In terms of tackling security, there is lack of political will.
Beyond the headlines.
Who are the sponsors of insecurity in this country?
From breaking news to everyday conversations, this is where Nigeria's conversations begin. We track the issues shaping Nigeria and the world today. The world is talking, and we're listening. This is Trends on LJE News.
In terms of tackling security, there is lack of political will.
Beyond the headlines.
Who are the sponsors of insecurity in this country?
From breaking news to everyday conversations, this is where Nigeria's conversations begin. We track the issues shaping Nigeria and the world today. The world is talking, and we're listening. This is Trends on LJE News.
In terms of tackling security, there is lack of political will.
Beyond the headlines.
Who are the sponsors of insecurity in this country?
From breaking news to everyday conversations.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Trends on LJE News, where we bring you the latest and developing stories in and across Nigeria and Africa. My name is Omotola Adeleke, and of course, I'm not here alone to tackle the topics that we have today. Barrister Meme, you're welcome to the program, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, you're welcome. Esther, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you.
Judith, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
You're welcome. All right, so let's quickly run through our headlines for this edition of Trends. National grid collapses again as Nigeria records second power outage in January 2026. Court strikes out Nnamdi Kanu's transfer request as Legal Aid Counsel withdraws. Chaos erupts in Onitsha main market as traders clash with security over Soludo's closure order. Wike opens door to dialogue, warns FCT workers against blackmail amid strike dispute. Tinubu loses footing briefly during Turkey Guard of Honor. Calvin Bassey's father renews emotional plea for reunion after 18-year estrangement. Now let's move on to the lead story. Nigeria's national electricity grid collapsed on Tuesday morning, marking the second system failure in January 2026. The first collapse occurred just last Friday, raising pressure concerns over the stability of the power sector. The Nigerian National Grid confirmed the incident on X at about 10:53 a.m. with a brief post reading, "Grid collapse," followed by an assurance that restoration was underway. Data from the Nigerian Independent System Operator (NISO) showed power generation dropping to 0 megawatts. Several distribution companies were affected, including those serving Ikeja, Eko, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, Benin, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, Jos, and Yola. Barrister Meme, despite the power sector reforms over the years, we're still having this issue of power grid collapse. In fact, as of last year, the Minister of Power promised that 2025 will be the end of power grid collapse, but despite that, it still happens. Now look at it. Nigeria gives light to other West African countries, but it seems like we, the provider, are the ones always experiencing this power grid collapse. What do you think is the systematic problem here?
Well, the systematic problem is very physical for all of us to see. It's about management, it's about determination to do what is right. You rightly mentioned that we saw the other time when it was published in the news that some other countries within the West Africa, is owing Nigeria up to tens of billions of naira. And then you then ask yourself question, why is it that we're not even getting enough electricity here in Nigeria? And despite that, Nigerians are eager, willing to pay for the consumption of electricity they utilize in this country. But it is very, very simple. Just like every other sector and critical sectors in this country, road infrastructure, electricity, technological and education, health sectors, everything is in a state of collapse. Of course, we don't need to ask so much questions to find the solutions or find the response to the questions. It's simply the issue of good leadership, governance, and ability to manage the resources of the country.
Okay, Barrister Mehmet, thank you very much. Judith, you know, when technology was involved, to a certain extent, the federal government was able to, you know, reduce the use of estimated bills and meters. Prepaid meters were brought in. But despite that, we're still having issues of steady electricity in Nigeria. How do you think this issue can be abated?
Well, I think this issue is basically, like Barrister Mehmet said, an issue of management. The people in charge of these things, of the electricity, what exactly are they doing to make sure that this issue is...
So is it about the people in charge of the electricity or the government itself?
I think the government puts people in charge. The government, there are people that it is their jobs to ensure that the country has steady electricity, and yet things like this are happening. A country like Nigeria that is as developed as we say we are, and yet there are areas that cannot boast of 20 hours power supply in a day. I think the people in charge of the electricity are the ones that we should be held responsible this time around.
So how can we bring about a solution? Esther, what solutions do you think can be suggested in this case?
Proper management.
Proper management.
Yes, I think that's the only solution and the best solution we can use to apply in this situation. We need proper management of electricity in Nigeria. We can't keep having these things. We should emulate some other countries. Like Judith already mentioned, some places don't even have lights at all, let alone 10 hours. And sometimes you hear things like a day in and a day out. We're not supposed to exist without electricity. Electricity is one of the basics we need as citizens.
All right, thank you very much, Esther. Let's move on to the next story quickly. Justice James Kolawole Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has struck out an ex parte motion filed by IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu seeking his transfer from the Sokoto Correctional Facility. At Tuesday's hearing, Kanu's counsel, Demdo Hassan, of the Legal Aid Council applied to withdraw from the case, citing irreconcilable differences. He told the court that Kanu attempted to dictate court submissions and failed to ensure his relatives appeared to the polls to the application, despite repeated assurances. Hassan said his superiors supported the decision to step aside in order to uphold professional ethics. Granting the application, Justice Omotosho praised counsel's conduct and ruled that the motion was incompetent due to lack of proof of service, striking out, the case accordingly. Barrister Meme, as a legal practitioner as well, this case has been pending. The movement of Nnamdi Kanu from Abuja to Sokoto, the family also coming out to say no, Sokoto is not safe for Nnamdi Kanu and he should be moved back, probably to Abuja or its environs like Niger State and the rest of them. What would you have to say to this?
Well, when it comes to the issue of court judgment and obedience to the rule of law, it must be obeyed to the letter. The court is within its jurisdiction to decide the appropriate custody to place a convict. So that is within the power of the court. In response to that, I would say that the court has ruled. So there is nothing much it can do, but rather to take other further legal steps, to remedy the situation.
But if you're to advise the family of Nnamdi Kanu, especially when it has to do with securing the release of Nnamdi Kanu, what advice would you give the family?
Yeah, it's very simple. Don't forget that this matter has to do, as allegedly as being convicted is a crime against the state, and once you have been convicted, you become the property of the state. So right now, Nnamdi Kanu is a property of the state, not really the property of the family. However, it is the government who should determine where is best appropriate for him to serve his jail term. But when we're looking at the other circumstances surrounding his case, you would say for the purpose of public interest issues and related matter, one would really want to say, okay, it would have been more appropriate for him to be, kept in a place where it will be more accessible by
for families
and the rest of them. So, but like I said, that remains in the realm of the power of the court to decide where it should really be.
All right. All right. Pandemonium erupted at the Onitsha main market in Anambra State on Tuesday as traders clashed with security operatives enforcing the market closure. Governor Chukwuma Soludo had ordered the shutdown on Monday, citing traders' continued compliance with the IPOB sit-at-home directive despite prevailing peace in the state. Earlier, armored personnel carriers and heavily armed police officers were deployed to secure the area. Tension escalated when traders later stormed the market in a bid to access their shops, defying the closure order. The confrontation resulted in chaos, with traders seen fleeing for safety in viral videos as gunshot rang out across the market. Esther, don't you see this, order by Chukwuma Soludo escalating into something else? Perhaps, aggravated insecurity in the state.
Obviously, we can see what's going on. It has digressed from what he wants to interpersonal conflict. I watched a video earlier about a coffin, beheaded people, angry Nigerians pasting cardboard papers against Soludo and all of that. They're already harming themselves. They're killing the police officers are killing the citizens. All of this banter, it's going beyond what we expected it to be. It was supposed to be a peaceful thing where he says, after 1 week everybody should go back to the market.
So you are saying the people should have just been patient and just go back to market on Monday?
Yes, that's what would have happened, because right now they are no longer fighting him, they are fighting themselves. Some people are saying don't open, some people are saying they want to go to the market, some people are saying they want to sell their goods, some people are saying you have to stay at home. They are fighting themselves at this point.
All right, Barrister Membe, it has gotten to the point that APCs are now being used as armored personnel carrier, and soldiers and police officers and other security agencies are being used. I don't know. It might perhaps cause some aggravated violence, anger, and just like Esther just mentioned. Is that what you see in this case? Is that what you see?
Yesterday I supported the decision of the governor, to close down the market, because in my opinion, I believe very strongly that what you attempt to be today as sit-at-home Monday is more like a punishment on the people of the
state itself.
Yeah, I'm very, very frank with you.
In fact, some lawmakers were coming out to say they are supporting Soludo, and over 19.6 billion naira have been lost so far in just Anambra State.
And it's even go beyond opening of shops. Even the government agencies, government parastatals are normally closed down on Mondays. This is a known fact, not just in Anambra, but in many parts of the southeast. And you can imagine having Monday closed down, Saturdays closed down, and Sunday closed down. So out of the 7 days in a week, you're having only just 4 days to work in a country that is ravaged with poverty and lacks of basic amenities, and you're still having 3 days closed down for work. So in my opinion, I think the decision and the directive given by IPOB in this case is unconstitutional. But the issue now is, if the directive given by the governor is enough to to douse the issue or to remedy the issue, that is more like a counter directive trying to remedy the situation. And again, I still stand by supporting the governor, because the governor is trying to remedy the situation by saying, look, if you don't want to open on Monday, then let us just have the full week close down.
All right. Moving away from Governor Soludo, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has expressed readiness to engage in dialogue with striking workers of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, while cautioning that intimidation or blackmail will not influence his decision. His comment followed an interlocutory injunction granted on Tuesday by the National Industrial Court in Abuja, ordering workers under the Joint Union Action Committee to suspend their strike. Despite the ruling, protesting workers say they were no longer on strike but will remain at home, refusing to resume duties. Addressing journalists in Abuja, Wike said the administration had consistently shown willingness to resolve issues through dialogue, noting that past engagement often ended without follow-through. He stressed that negotiations would only continue if approached genuinely, not through pressure tactics. Judith, now the minister of the FCT is saying, okay, we want dialogue, but at the same time, he's threatening, to sack workers who don't resume work. How does that even relate?
Well, I think that at this point, the minister, since he's since he's open to dialogue, that the striking workers or the workers should now also agree with him and, I don't know, come to a conclusion on the matter.
All right.
This issue of not going to work, when you say you're not on strike but you not go to work, what then happens to the affairs? What happens to the job you're supposed to be doing? Who then does the work? So I think the workers should
resume work, despite the fact that their demands were not met. Yes.
The minister has agreed to dialogue with them. I think they should also do that.
All right. Barrister, do you think this tactics Wike is using, both threatening and saying, let's sit down and talk, do you think it's a good one, for workers of the FCTA? Because they feel threatened, they're still saying they're going to stay at home.
Well, from experience, over the years about dealing with civil servants and, workers of working in government agencies and parastatals, I took out time to listen to the various interviews granted by the various leaders of the union during the protests, and there were a lot of allegations against the minister of the FCC, of course, and but I would say that there are even more allegations against the workers. I saw some of the workers alleging that the incentives are not provided to the office to work, like printing papers, printers, ID card, they pay these monies to get. Now, don't forget that the FCT minister is the head of government in the FCT, right? And he met directors, deputy directors, assistant directors, and various heads of various departments and parastatals. And these civil servants are the people destroying this country in so many ways. When you provide these incentives, it gets to a certain point and this thing
cuts off.
So these are the issues. But what is expected by the minister is to really look into the corrupt activities by the various agencies, so that as they are tackling you as a minister, you should also look into their issues and tackle them.
All right. Moving to the last story for today, President Bola Tinubu briefly stumbled during a ceremonial march past on Tuesday at a parade ground in Turkey, drawing momentary attention before proceedings continued smoothly. The visit aims to strengthen long-standing Nigeria-Turkey relations and explore new areas of bilateral cooperation. During his stay, Tinubu is scheduled to hold talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, focusing on trade, security, investment, and regional collaboration. Quickly, Barrister Meme, should we be concerned about the president's health? This is not the first time, the health issue of the president is coming up on board. Should we be worried?
I've always been concerned about the health of our leaders, and even from the time of Muhammadu Buhari, I have said it, that one of the reasons why I do not really support this government is the age of the president. Even in the former president, I believe that no matter what happened, we should have, this country is a complex country. We need people of sound mind, of sound health to really govern their affairs.
What age bracket are we talking about here?
We should be looking at the maximum of 65 years old.
Okay.
65 years old.
All right. Esther, do you agree? What age bracket do you think the president should be?
Definitely, I agree with what he has said. I mean, look at his age. He should be taken care of and not traveling from place to place.
He should just be in his parlor, sitting down and watching TV.
I didn't say that. I said he should be taken care of.
Okay.
Right? Because of his health condition, nobody knows what's going on there. I mean, he was walking fine, and the next minute he stumbled. That means there's something wrong. Maybe.
All right, but the presidential aide is coming out to say nothing is wrong, that he stepped on a metal plate.
That is what they want us to hear. But we know deep down somewhere that the president is too old to be going on all of this.
All right. Thank you very much. So that's it for today's edition of Trends on LJE. Of course, many thanks to Barrister Meme. Thank you very much, sir.
It's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
All right, Judith, thank you for coming around and thank you for your insightful contributions.
Thank you.
All right, Esther, we appreciate your contributions, of course, too.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for today's edition, like I told you. And don't forget, to the viewers and listeners out there, make sure to follow, like, and share our LJE News on all social media platforms to stay in the loop and join the conversation ahead of our next show. My name is Omotola Adeleke. See you next time. Bye for now.
In terms of tackling security, there is lack of political will.
Beyond the headlines,
Who are the